All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Cornell-DeHue. I'm president and co-founder of Elected Officials to Protect America. And EOPA is a network of elected officials who care deeply about preventing the climate crisis, as well as protecting our land, water, and democracy. It is led by veterans who are elected officials and those on the front lines of the climate crisis. Many of us came to EOPA, including myself, based on our personal experiences looking at climate and the dangers presented. For me, that was when I was deployed with the Marine Corps as Marine Corps infantry in Iraq. And one of those routine patrols, we came across a line of cars, trucks, and tractors, literally as far as the eye could see. And because it was dusk, we couldn't quite make out what they were waiting for. And as we got closer, it dawned on us they were lining up for fuel and oil. And it was because it was getting dark, we had a curfew to enforce. And they were willing to risk their lives for this single source of energy. And unfortunately, it really dawned on me later how the US and other nations are lining up to autocratic dictators for this single source of energy as well. And that is not great for our security. So EOPA began to look at, hey, where are the causes of the climate crisis and what can we do about it? And partnering with our wonderful partners here, we decided to launch an electric vehicle tour across the Northeast. And really, this is because electric vehicles are at least 25% of the solution. And they're also really cool to drive, just frankly. They perform better, they're lower cost to operate, lower cost overall with the maintenance, and fuel up. There really isn't any drawbacks. When I was, you could drive it through a snowstorm, it has better performance. But despite that, the other side is actually good at marketing and has put a number of myths about EVs out there, including, like, say, they catch fire, which is very ironic because internal combustion engines are propelled by mini explosions all the time. But when it comes down to it, electric vehicles are much, much safer. In fact, gas vehicles are 100 times more likely to explode or burn. The cost side of it too. We were looking at, if you look at the top EVs available out there right now, there's 11 ones you can purchase under $35,000, which is pretty amazing. That means that EVs are less expensive than many internal combustion engines cars right now. The average cost of a new gas car is $48,000. And if you add hybrids up there, EDF did a good study. It looks like there's 21 vehicles available under $35,000. That is right now. That's not after the fuel savings. It's not after the maintenance savings. That's right now, which is pretty great. The other bit is we're in a cold winter sometimes. I was elected to the Maine state legislature, and it gets pretty cold up there too. And the one thing that gas folks don't like to say is they lose 10 to 12% of their performance as well. EVs, if it's you don't have the heat on, is about 8 to 10% reduction in performance. But if you plug them in and heat them beforehand and then go drive, you're losing about 8, 12% or so, which is on par with what gas is. I can personally attest this when I drove through a snowstorm in Colorado, and that for about 7 hours actually. And we were doing better than most EVs out there. Most gas cars out there. So I just wanted to outline those as a way to introduce this to say, hey, EVs are more cost effective, they're safer, and they're just more fun to drive. So what we'd like to do now, I'd love to introduce the speakers at our conference here, starting with the Pittsburgh Deputy Mayor, Jake Pawlak, and he's also the Director of the Office of Management and Budget.
Thank you. On behalf of Mayor Allegheny and the City of Pittsburgh, I'd like to welcome the elected officials to protect America to Pittsburgh, and we're very excited to highlight some of our efforts in addressing the climate crisis through our municipal government and the importance that we think this issue has for our region. Pittsburgh is the largest city in Appalachia, and that is a region, as I think most folks know, that is on the front lines of the climate crisis, whether it be flooding or landslides here, or the ones 2 years ago that had an absolutely devastating effect on eastern Kentucky. The impacts of climate change have been enormous to our region, and we all have an obligation to take steps to confront them. In Pittsburgh, we are heavily investing in electric vehicles, thanks to the support of the federal government and the American Rescue Plan Act. By the end of this year, we will have spent $15 million on electric vehicle purchasing for our fleet. That includes consumer-grade vehicles like electric F-150s or Chevy Bolts for our light-duty fleet, but also we're very proud to note our purchase of our first EV packers for our environmental services crew. So we'll actually be collecting recyclables in fully electric vehicles later on this year. In addition to our investments in electric vehicles, we're also heavily committed to improving the sustainability of our electric purchasing. The City of Pittsburgh is a lead institution in the Western Pennsylvania Energy Consortium, which is a joint purchasing consortium of the City of Pittsburgh government, Allegheny County, and a number of our large regional institutions who band together to purchase sustainable energy at reasonable prices that support municipal and nonprofit budgets. We actually last year completed our first transaction in directly purchasing sustainably produced energy from a wind farm in Ohio that now constitutes 40% of the group's overall energy consumption. And we're preparing for another similar transaction that'll further increase our zero carbon electric generation. Again, thanks to the support of the federal government, the City of Pittsburgh was designated a workforce hub, and we are using that designation and the specific support it gets us from the Department of Labor to build workforce development pipelines into clean energy jobs by developing partnerships between the Chamber of Commerce, the building trades unions in our region, all levels of government, and our Workforce Investment Board, Partner for Work, to prepare Pittsburgh and regional residents for jobs in the clean energy future. We've also partnered with Duquesne Light Company, which is our electric utility, Rewiring America, the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, Action Housing, the Riverside Center on Innovation, Sustainable Pittsburgh, and Partner for Work on an electrification, weatherization, and solar installation program that will support high-need residents in reducing the energy burden in their homes. Our goal is to have significantly reduce the energy burden for 100 City of Pittsburgh residents by the end of this year, and in the next 6 years, do so for 10,000 residents across the southwestern Pennsylvania region. Finally, we are an applicant to the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program, which is our joint application between Allegheny County and the City of Pittsburgh to take similar steps to the ones I just mentioned that are reducing residential improvements in electrification to all of the city and county's public housing developments. So weatherizing, removing toxins, and investing in electrification and energy savings in all public housing facilities administered by the City of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. This investment, if approved, will have a major impact on the energy burden and energy intensity of our public housing portfolio and improve the lives of city public housing and county public housing residents. Finally, we are also preparing through our Urban Redevelopment Authority to make the city's first direct investment in renewable generation by turning a slag heap from our industrial steel producing past in the eastern portion of the city into a solar farm that through WIPIC, our energy consortium, could contribute significant additional sustainably generated electricity to the city's grid. So as a municipal government and an entity with an important role to play in confronting the climate crisis here in Appalachia and across the country, the City of Pittsburgh is fully committed to doing everything within our power to address this crisis and to make investments in the future for our residents, both in their homes and on the job. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd love to pass it off now to Councilmember Khari Mosley, representing Pittsburgh District 9.
Thanks so much, Alex. And Alex, I believe we probably have a mutual friend, Justin Alfon, the former state senator of Maine, is one of my really good friends. So at dinner, we'll share some Justin Alfon stories. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really honored to be here. I want to thank elected officials to protect America for inviting me today. And, I really want to frame, my remarks around three ideas: environmental sustainability, climate resilience, and economic prosperity. I feel like we have an opportunity to really transform our city, a city that really was defined by the role that we played in the fossil fuel era of the 19th and 20th centuries, and really redefine our city on a clean energy platform to create the next version of Pittsburgh as we endeavor on our first comprehensive plan in decades. So I think this is the perfect time for us as we led the country in the 19th and 20th centuries in the old economy to be a leader once again in the new economy, a clean economy that creates jobs and makes our infrastructure more resilient, as we deal with extreme weather that we're experiencing as we speak right now today. This is really a unique opportunity, for our city. I'm proud to stand here with the elected officials on various levels of government. We're joined by our state representative, Emily Kinkead, as well. And from the federal level, state level, county level, and at the municipal level, Pittsburgh can truly be a leader for the country, as we invest in these new technologies that not only are going to create economic prosperity, but again, make our cities more resilient as we fight climate change and ensure that this next generation of Americans will truly be the environmental stewards that set our country on the right path. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm going to bring Alex back up to introduce the next speaker.
Great, thank you so much. I'd love to introduce State Assembly Member Emily Kinkead now, representing District 20.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about just the way in which Pittsburgh is leading not just our region, not just our state, but the nation in a lot of forward-thinking innovations to make sure that we are prepared for everything that is to come. Southwestern Pennsylvania is uniquely positioned to be at the forefront of a green economy. We have world-class labor unions, we have world-class universities, and we have a world-class city that is just leading the way when it comes to changing over our reliance on fossil fuels. So I'm excited to see the things that Pittsburgh is doing. And at the state level, we are trying to basically, innovate what Pittsburgh is leading in and make sure that we are incentivizing more cities and more counties across our Commonwealth to do the same thing. So whether it's solar for schools or, capping oil wells or any number of things that move us away from fossil fuels, the incredible electric vehicles that are outside are really just one important piece of that. I'm a huge Star Trek nerd. I wear my Star Trek pin all the time because, I like to say that I am in government in order to put us on a path to achieve the Star Trek future, where we don't have to worry about poverty. We don't have to worry about people having their houses fall off the side of hills because of landslides caused by extreme weather conditions as a result of climate change. And transitioning over to electric vehicles, transitioning away from fossil fuels is a huge way that we can make sure that we are protecting our citizens now and that we are keeping our planet livable for generations to come. So I'm excited to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Assembly Member. I have to say we will echo the Star Trek appreciation as EOPA is supported by the Roddenberry Foundation with Heidi and Rod Roddenberry. Good coincidences here between Justin Alphonse in Maine and Star Trek. But more importantly, we've heard from the city here and then the state level, talking about the policies they've been implementing that are really making a difference in people's lives and the health of their lives through the clean energy investments. So next, I'd love to introduce Chief of Staff Mark Tree speaking for Councilmember Erika Strassburger in Pittsburgh District 8.
Thanks, Alex. Sorry to disappoint. I'm not a Trekkie, so I'm going to break the streak. But good afternoon. My name is Scott McMurtry, and I'm proud to serve as Chief of Staff to Pittsburgh City Councilperson Erika Strassburger. The councilperson regrets that her schedule did not permit her to join us this afternoon, but she's an enthusiastic supporter of the initiatives we're here to discuss, and I'll do my best to channel that enthusiasm on her behalf. I want to thank EOPA for inviting our office to participate, and I want to thank either Ramona or Alex or whoever decided to move the event indoors, because otherwise I was going to have to buy a linen suit for this, and I don't have that in my budget right now. So, but seriously, the reason Energize Pittsburgh is such an exciting program is because it's exactly what a clean energy transition looks like in practice. Thanks to historic investments made by the Biden administration and their congressional partners, cities like Pittsburgh can now accelerate their adoption of renewable energy technologies, and in the process, help to economically empower our residents. The Inflation Reduction Act is more than just President Biden's signature achievement. I firmly believe it will go down as one of the most transformative pieces of legislation in American history. It holds the potential to change the way we work, travel, and ultimately live. But for this bill to realize its revolutionary impact, state and local governments must play their roles on implementation. In Pittsburgh, we are stepping up to embrace that responsibility. Clean air, clean water, and sustainable communities have always been among Councilperson Strassburger's core priorities. In fact, achieving a greener future was her original motivation for entering public service. She's fought for clean energy both as an environmental advocate and an elected official, and she's determined to help the city meet the ambitious goals outlined in our Climate Action Plan 3.0. Last fall, the councilperson shared a council post agenda to inform the public about our progress toward these benchmarks. In the session, we learned from our outstanding and dedicated sustainability and resilience team that, candidly, we still have a lot of work to do in the upcoming years. Fortunately, the Inflation Reduction Act has provided a major boost to these efforts through the creation of Energize Pittsburgh. City government must continue to lead on climate by slashing our own emissions and maintaining a healthy environment within our townships. The councilperson and her colleagues believe it's a moral imperative to do so, and will continue to push for a greener government operation. But we also know that for many Pittsburghers, they think a lot more about the dollars and cents on their own utility bills than they do about how much carbon this building emits per month. We hear and respect their very real concerns as well. And the extraordinary thing about this initiative is that it can help to alleviate both public environmental harms and individual economic burdens at the same time. For all of our neighbors, especially in Justice 40 communities, Energize Pittsburgh can lower energy bills and improve the air quality in homes and neighborhoods. It will complement other environmental initiatives to reduce the region's carbon footprint, stimulate economic growth, and facilitate the widespread adoption of EVs. Pittsburgh can and will serve as an example for other cities on how they can seize a clean energy future that drives prosperity for all of us. We look forward to building that future alongside everyone in the coming days and years. Thank you, and try to stay cool.
Thank you. We'll definitely be looking forward to driving some EVs pretty soon. Next, I'd love to introduce Commissioner Martin Miller. He's West Norriton Township and also EOP's National Leadership Council.
Thanks, Alex. Good afternoon, everybody. Martin Miller, West Norriton Township, Montgomery County. Thank you to the folks in Pittsburgh for being so generous to a 4-for-4 Philly sports fan. I appreciate that. When I got elected in 2017, I got to confess that I never read the Pennsylvania Constitution. I knew I would have to swear an oath to it in the first week of January, so I read it. And one of the things I found most interesting in that was that there is an amendment to the Constitution that guarantees Pennsylvanians as a human right clean air and pure water in those words. So when I took the oath, I knew how important those things were to me, and I knew that I wanted to make a bigger difference. You know, our household had done the things that most people do, change energy efficient lights, a more efficient HVAC system, etc. But that was just one household. We have to make a difference on a larger scale. Unfortunately, I'm in a position to do that now. So we've begun to advocate at our local level in our township for policies that will help to enact some of those goals that I swore an oath to protect. We worked with our Senator, Amanda Capoletti, to get some funding to get our first electric police vehicle. It'll be fully fitted and up to the standards, the high standards that our police department is used to. So they'll be able to continue to protect and serve while not burning gas while they idle. So this is a huge deal. We're working with our state representation as well, Representatives Webster and Bradford, to get additional funding to build the infrastructure to actualize the goal of our using 100% renewable energy by 2035. We've already started that with the electric sources that we use. We're analyzing the large utilities we use in the township, specifically heating in our buildings, to see where we can do better and electrify that as well. And we want to electrify our fleet, from police cars to code enforcement vehicles, everything as they become available. So I just described my part-time job. My full-time job is as a pharmacist. I've worked for about 24 years in various settings throughout the industry. Most notably, the part that sticks with me the most is when I worked in community pharmacy in some of the lower income neighborhoods in Philadelphia. So many young folks were afflicted with asthma, required multiple medications to control it, and because they lived in a very highly urbanized, highly mechanized area where vehicles run for a great length of time, spewing particulate matter into the air and affecting and worsening breathing diseases, among many others. So I've seen it on the front lines of healthcare that this will have a knock-on effect beyond just helping our environment. It'll help our young people, specifically young people from less affluent backgrounds, have a better start at things. So I'm very lucky that I have two perspectives in this, one in government and one in healthcare. It's very important to me to look after the next generation because somebody looked after me and we want to pay it forward. And that's part of what we're wanting to accomplish here. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you for all the work you're doing to keep people healthy. Next, I'd love to introduce former school board member, Kate Kruk, and she's been traveling across the Northeast and Southeast, really, with us on her with her Lightning 150. And it's been unbelievably amazing to learn all about the work you're doing at Lynkwell, charging the AVs.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. As Alex had mentioned, my name is Kate Kruk, and I am a proudly retired school board member after serving my district for 6 years. I'm also a member of a kinship family, and I've been driving an electric car for almost a decade. I serve also on the board of directors for the Electric Vehicle Association, and I'm the partner and engagement director for Livingston Energy Group and the Lynkwell companies. Like a lot of women, I wear a lot of hats, with one overarching theme, that I encourage others to adapt to change and leave things in a better place than you left it. When it comes to EVs, I've been driving change since I bought my first 100% electric vehicle in 2015. I was breaking the stereotypes that EVs are not affordable. I bought a Chevy Spark, and it's the best car I've ever owned. It was $15,000 with a $7,500 incentive rebate. Like many people who were considering the switch, I had to take a look at the real driving I did. And it wasn't anything extreme. I went to work, I picked up my kids from school, I had to drive to appointments. I was maybe doing 40 miles a day, maybe. Pennsylvania's average driving mileage is 11,444 miles a year. That breaks down to about 31 miles daily. Today's EVs can average are closer to 300 miles, which were much more than my Chevy Spark EV that got 90 miles of range back in 2015. If I could do it back then, Pennsylvania can definitely do it today. So with a car that's on the market today with around 300 average miles, that means you could go 10 days of driving without even plugging it in. Or you could top off at work, community, or home, and there's nothing to worry about. A barrier that I hear about all the time about transitioning to electric vehicles is the lack of EV infrastructure. So I decided to do something about it. And I'm proud to be working for a domestic company based in upstate New York. Lynkwell is providing solutions for EV infrastructure. We are one of the top 10 CPOs in the United States, and we are providing EV charging at workplaces, schools, communities, municipalities, and fleets, all the places that support adoption of e-mobility. It takes something though, investing in domestic solutions for EV infrastructure, hardware, and software allows for job creation. Developing and manufacturing EV infrastructure domestically can create jobs. One of the folks that just spoke about that a few moments ago, and it boosts our economy. In the past year, our company reimagined a 20,000 square foot vacant facility and turned it into manufacturing headquarters, able to produce thousands of US-made EV charging stations with US-based software. Green energy technology careers are rapidly expanding. This is something I told my students when I was on school board. This is an industry that you can be a part of. Workforce needs are increasing, and students and young people need to understand there are good paying careers in this industry. And elected officials can support and should support businesses who are creating products and services here in the US. We talk about enhanced security on this tour. Relying on domestic solutions reduces our dependency on foreign suppliers, enhancing our national security. It also benefits quality control when local production allows for better oversight and quality assurance, ensuring high standards. We keep talking on this tour about economic growth. Investing in domestic industry stimulates economic growth and innovation within our country. Our company is proof. We are on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing business for the past 2 years. And in 2018, our business had 2 employees. Today, there's over 100. We can do more with technological leadership. It positions our country as leaders in EV technology, fostering advancements and setting the industry standards. And support for US-based businesses encourage domestic solutions, supports local businesses, and the broader supply chain within the country. So I want to thank all of our leaders here today who are making waves and driving change like myself. I encourage everybody here, whether you're behind me or out in public, go check out the EVs that are outside today. And I want to thank the Electric Vehicle Association, the members who are showing their vehicles and have allowed me to be on this tour. Thank you for inviting me, and I am so appreciative of being able to share my story. Thanks so much, Alex.
Yes, thank you again for sharing your inspiring story. So next, I'd love to introduce Brittany Piszczek, Allegheny County Director of Sustainability.
Thank you, Alex. As you mentioned, my name is Brittany Piszczek. I am Allegheny County's Director of the Department of Sustainability. On behalf of our County Executive, Sara, Inamorato, I want to thank EOPA for having us today. We're excited to be included in this press conference, and thank the city for hosting us, especially inside on this sweltering warm day. Allegheny County has been investing in electric vehicles since 2020, just one of the many sustainability strategies we've been deploying since we hired our first sustainability manager in 2009. Along with the EVs, it's not just the vehicles themselves, it's the infrastructure that we've been deploying as well. Fleet infrastructure for charging stations is now standard on all of our new construction projects and renovations, which includes having to have partnerships with our local utilities. We've had great partnerships with Duquesne Light Company and West Penn Power that operate within Allegheny County, and they've assisted us in infrastructure or electric upgrades to our facilities so that we can put in charging station, make sure our vehicles can make it to their destinations. I'm very excited to showcase, we have with us today one of our Chevy Bolts. It's part of our employee pull fleet. Our pull fleet has all electric vehicles, just one gas vehicle left in that fleet for those long distance travels. But we're excited to talk about it today. I'm happy to answer any questions about how we've navigated that infrastructure side, which is sometimes such a tough piece for municipalities. And so I look forward to talking with folks and answering any questions and really explaining how excited the county is to be part of this clean energy future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a wonderful accomplishment to get it down to one vehicle. So congrats. All right, so next we have the opportunity to answer some questions. There's some questions coming on from the broadcast online, but first I'd love to open it up to the audience here. If you have any questions, we'll jump there. If not, I'll jump online. Okay. All right, so we have a question online. Can someone explain the City Climate Action Plan 3.0 and how it affects EVs and, more importantly, the citizens? I think that is directly great for the mayor.
Sure, I'm happy to speak to that. So the Climate Action Plan 3.0, as the name would suggest, is the third iteration of the City of Pittsburgh's Climate Action Plan. We've been continuously updating and modifying the plan to meet the evolving needs of the city for sustainable resources and also new opportunities presented by evolutions in technology and the shifting landscape of the market. Our goal is 100% renewable electricity for all city consumption by 2050, as well as, and then that's driven largely by our efforts to electrify our fleet, as well as reduce the reliance of our city facilities on fossil fuel-based energy. So our two primary initiatives to achieving that objective within the city's direct sort of portfolio of energy use are purchasing of electric vehicles and then the retrofitting and electrification of our buildings, alongside our efforts jointly with the county and other major regional institutions through the Western Pennsylvania Energy Consortium to purchase renewably generated electricity for the city's consumption. And that's why, again, through WIPIC, we've now moved to purchase about 40% of our overall consumption from wind. We're looking to grow that number in the next year or so, and then are making investments within city limits in solar on a former industrial site that could further our efforts to reach fully sustainable generation. In terms of impacts on our residents, another area of focus in the plan is reducing overall emissions within the city. So not just those generated by city vehicles, but those generated within city limits. That requires that we build a city that is more accessible without the use of a car, through investments in bike infrastructure, improved pedestrian infrastructure, coordination with the Pittsburgh Regional Transit Agency around mass transit, in order to make it possible to travel around the city without using a personal vehicle to reduce overall emissions. We're seeing success with that. Pittsburgh is a city of neighborhoods. We have 90 distinct neighborhoods, almost all of which have their own local business district and are a mix of both residential and commercial activity. So we have the potential to be a very walkable city, bikeable city, and we just need to continue to invest in the hard infrastructure to achieve that, which is driven by our climate action plan.
Thank you. So this is actually a great question. Really quickly, we can just go down through. How do the incentives offered in the IRA for EVs help the Justice 40 communities or communities which you're working in? So in your municipalities, in your state, how are the IRA incentives planned to? You could see the benefit, or if they've already had a benefit out.
I mean, I've got one.
Go for it. I'm gonna pass it on.
Yeah. So to benefit some of the IRA rules for used electric vehicles, or some of the great access, creates more access to the electric vehicles themselves. So right now there is a federal tax credit that takes $4,000 off the sticker price of any electric vehicle that is used. There's rules out there. Again, it kind of helps with reducing the barrier to entry for any vehicle, but for an electric vehicle specifically, that's $4,000 at time of purchase. There are some stipulations as far as it has to be with a registered distributor or dealer, but that is something that helps to lower the cost of an electric vehicle. Obviously, once you're into that vehicle too, it helps with your maintenance as well as your fuel consumption. So now you're using an electric vehicle. EVs tend to be about a third of the price of gasoline cars, so that can help some members of the community as well.
From the fleet perspective, through the IRA, there are tax credits, as mentioned, that are available that are part of the direct pay option, and that actually has an EV component. And so from a municipality, there are tax reductions, I believe, $7,500 for vehicles. And so there's an opportunity there for municipalities to get additional funding to help offset that incremental cost difference between a traditional gasoline vehicle and an electric vehicle. And so definitely keep an eye out for those. Outside of the IRA, there's a lot of other funding out there for municipalities. There is the Alternative Fuels Incentive Grant Program, which is actually a Pennsylvania state grant that has an incremental cost difference. And we've actually been able to take advantage of that. And I know the city has as well. A really good opportunity to help bring that initial cost down for electric vehicles.
I think beyond the direct support that IRA and other programs can provide to municipalities in our own purchasing or our own investments, there's just the importance that that those tax incentives have on private purchasing, whether that be private fleets or in the consumer market, has on supporting and bolstering the EV market, right? In ensuring the ready availability of EVs, because they're a growing component of the consumer market. That is really important to our ability to then continue to make those investments in our fleets. It's also important to the city's ability to meet our objectives for overall emissions reductions within the region. So whether it's in a direct benefit to municipalities or local governments or to the wider public, they're helping us achieve our objectives of confronting the climate crisis.
I think the other thing that's really exciting about this is to answer the question about Justice 40 communities. To me, it comes down to lower energy bills and more job opportunities. And I think these are long-term implications of the Inflation Reduction Act. But when we talk about making people's weatherizing people's homes, climatizing them, bringing down their energy bills, that especially helps people who are on the lower end of the economic spectrum. And as we continue to build out the infrastructure necessary for a truly green economy, I think eventually we'll see more job opportunities for people in those communities as well.
Great. We have another question focusing in on Pennsylvania. It's known as an oil and gas state in many ways. Steel has been fueled by that. So how is the transition to EVs and clean energy going to affect Pennsylvania moving forward?
Sure. So yeah, Pittsburgh in particular and Western Pennsylvania were, for a better part of a century, the center of the steel manufacturing industry. And with that, we were the center of the extraction of primarily coal. Coal is produced all across Pennsylvania and West Virginia, Ohio. So this was a really central component of the carbon economy for a long time. It's also where oil for use in internal combustion engines was first developed. So we're no stranger to the effects of the extractive economy. However, it's important to note that that sort of putting all of our economic and social and cultural eggs into that basket over a 50, 60, 70-year period was not, as it turns out, in the long-term best interest of the region or its residents. First, it suffered enormous ecological and environmental health devastation in that time. And second, as those markets shifted, as the coal ran out, as we were outcompeted by foreign manufacturers of steel, we lost that cornerstone of our economy. And so we have been, and I think are arguably on the forefront of reimagining our regional economy in the aftermath of that, and are especially sensitive to a more sustainable future because of the lessons we learned in that period. One of the greatest competitive advantages of the Allegheny River Valley and the Ohio River Basin is that we are experiencing climate change as an increase in the availability of fresh water, when most of the country and many parts of the world are seeing the opposite. Right now, we're tackling that challenge mostly as a threat, through the threat of flooding and the threat of landslides. But properly managed, it can be the sustainable future of our region. We have a burgeoning biotech industry in Pittsburgh that is in no small part linked to the availability of a renewable and sustainable supply of fresh water that can build a more sustainable future here. We have ample resources for electric generation, biofuel generation, or renewable components for manufacturing. So I think that our history with steel and with extraction have taught us important lessons about why it's so critical that we invest in a more sustainable future for Western Pennsylvania and Upper Appalachia.
Wonderful. So that folds actually really well into our next question. That's a part two to that. And that's looking at, the goal is 100% clean energy by 2030. So what are the infrastructure investments that need to happen to make that an attainable goal? So that's probably a combination between local and state.
So some of the steps we've taken in our township is we had students from Villanova University come to our township and analyze all of our facilities. So our community building, our golf course building, our pump stations, any place that utilizes any kind of energy that serves the residents of our township. From that analysis, which was free because they were students, so it was a win-win. It was sort of an internship of sorts. They were able to help us identify significantly underperforming areas of our infrastructure at a township level that we've already worked on to make some changes. For example, our township went to papowerswitch.com, which is what any resident of the Commonwealth can do. Not only did we get fully 100% renewable energy basically with the click of a mouse, but we wound up saving money on our rate over and above that. Furthermore, we're having our staff analyze implementing solar panels on our significantly large township buildings to help to, again, utilize that 100% renewable energy to bring the goal of our Ready for 100 by 2035 to fruition. So there's some pretty big steps that we're taking. Obviously, as far as today's talk goes, we are looking very strongly at electrifying our fleet in very short order. And that's a great thing because that's going to put American jobs to work because we will be buying American cars in order to replace what we have.
Great. So I'll finish with this last question, and unless there's any others in the audience here. The federal standards for the EPA for clean car standards and the Department of Transportation have put forward are being challenged at times. So how does the federal standards and the protection of them matter to the local and state level? The federal standards at the EPA for clean cars and the Department of Transportation, how do those standards help at the local and state level here?
Yeah, I'll try. So it gives us a blueprint as far as what to shoot for. We know what's in place now. We're confident they're going to be challenged, as are anything done at the federal level to improve the environment, unfortunately. But we have at least seen a template of what can be expected for future fuel efficiency or fuel efficiency equivalency. And that will be our target in terms of the township with how we can match or exceed that. We hope the standards are upheld. We know that they're going to undergo a significant pushback in the legislature, but at least we can see as a template what's already been done and work on that to meet or exceed those standards.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. We'll be around for further questions. Particularly, we'll be right outside here where we have everything from a Cybertruck to a Chevy Bolt there to experience and learn about and drive. So please take your time and enjoy the benefits of EVs and how they're protecting our health and our security.